writing in response to Thomas Love Peacock, who had said that a poet in our time is a semi-barbarian in a civilized community. Percy Bysshe Shelley proclaimed in 1821, and I'm quoting now, that poets are the hierophants of an unapprehended inspiration, the mirrors of the gigantic shadows which futurity casts upon the present, the words which express what they understand not, the trumpets which sing to battle and feel not what they inspire, the influence which is moved not but moves. Poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world.
Christopher, I think at this moment I'd like you to read These Are the Times That Try Men's Souls. Let's listen to the quality of language.
Well, this is his second pamphlet for the American Revolution. The first, which was called Common Sense, as you know, summoned Americans to throw off the British yoke and the British connection and to declare themselves independent. And the second one, The Crisis, was written when the war was going very badly, when it was at its lowest ebb, and it looked as if Washington would be defeated. And it begins like this. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of his country. But he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of men and women. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered, yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. 'Tis dearness only that gives everything its value.
The flawless poem is another wartime poem called An Irish Airman Foresees His Death, which I'm sure some of you know, which goes like this. You have to picture an Irishman on the Western Front in this old biplane. And it goes, I know that I shall meet my fate somewhere among the clouds above. Those whom I fight, I do not hate. Those whom I guard, I do not love. My country is Kiltartan Cross. My countrymen Kiltartan's poor. No likely end could bring them loss, or leave them happier than before. No law nor duty bade me fight, no public men nor cheering crowds. A lonely impulse of delight drove to this tumult in the clouds. I summoned all, brought all to mind. The years to come seem waste of breath, a waste of breath the years behind, in balance with this life, this death. Voila. That's Mr. Yates.
It was Brillig, and the slithy Tove stood gyre and gimble in the way. All mimsy were the Borogoves, and the Momraths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the teeth that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the Frumnius Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand. Long time the manxome foe he sought. Then rested he by the Tumtum tree, and stood a while in thought, and as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock, with eyes of flame, came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy.
O fragis day, Callooh, Calais, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig in the slithy toves, to Garn Gimble in the way, all mimsy were the Borrowloaves and the Memraths, and pray. Voila. Auden was very fond of numinous dates as the title, or titles of his poems, or for the titling of poetry. The 1st of September 1939 is considered by some people to be his finest work. This was simply called August 1968, and it goes, the ogre does what ogres can, deeds quite impossible for man. But one prize is beyond his reach. The ogre cannot master speech. About the subjugated plain, amid the vanquished and the slain, the ogre stalks with hands on hips, while drivel gushes from his lips. And August 1968, as some of you will be old enough to remember, was the date of the invasion of Czechoslovakia, of the Red Army crushing of the Czech experiment. And it was penned by Auden as a very immediate response, hot immediate response, from just across the Austrian frontier to that erasure by the Soviet Union of culture and democracy in Czechoslovakia. The elevated Shakespearean note on which I wish to end was this, is with my favorite sonnet, and I'll tell you why it's favorite in a second. You may know the one I mean. It's when in disgrace with fortune in men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself, and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy contented least. When in this state, myself almost despising, haply, I think on thee, and then my soul, like lark at break of day arising, quits sullen earth and sings at heaven's gate for thy sweet love remembered. Such wealth brings that then I scorn to change my state with kings. And I like this sonnet above rubies, not because of the wonderful play on state and king and the political and social subtext, as we've learned to call it, but because of the earlier bit, marvelous though that subtext is, the earlier, where he's saying, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed. What do we learn from this? There was some guy who Shakespeare envied. He thought, I wish I had this man's talent. I wish I was as good as him. I wish I was as smart. I wish I had his wit. I wish I had his gift. I can't rest until I know who that guy was. I want very, very, very badly to know. Until I know, I can know no rest. This is bent double, like old beggars under sacks, knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge, till on the haunting flares we turned our backs and towards our distant rest began to trudge. Men marched asleep. Many had lost their boots, but limped on, blood-shod. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue, deaf, even to the hoots of tired, outstripped 5/9s that dropped behind. Gas. Gas. Quick boys. An ecstasy of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmets just in time. But someone there was shouting out and stumbling, and floundering like a man in fire or lime, deep through the dark green panes and thin green light, as under a green sea, I watched him drowning. In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. If, in some smothering dream, you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in and watch the white eyes writhing in his face, his hanging face, like a devil's, sick of sin, if you could hear at every jolt the blood come gargling from the froth-corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer, bitter as the cud of vile, incurable sores on innocent tongues, my friend, you would not say, with such high zest, to children, ardent for some desperate glory, that old lie, dulce et decorum est, pro patria mori.
Thank you.
There's one poem that absolutely exemplifies this ethos, and which for some reason never dies, I think for many good reasons, is reborn in all generations, and it's Kipling's If, which I'll close on if I may. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise, if you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat these two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on, well, there is nothing in you except the will that says, hold on, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, and all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the world, and everything that's in it. What is more, you'll be a man, my son. Yeah.
This place makes me wonder.
Yeah, what's that, boss?
Which would be worse? To live as a monster, or to die as a good man?
Teddy?